Hello fashion lovers, you're welcome. Join me today. Let's make this beautiful ball dress for teenagers. For the quantity of fabrics I used, we have 1 meter of Duchess satin, 6 yards of tulle net, we have 4 yards of taffeta fabric, half a yard of shiny face satin, and some flowers for embellishment. So I began by drawing my half length, that's the shoulder to waist, and then I put in my shoulder measurement, my across chest measurement, and then I input my shoulder slant and my armhole. I also went ahead to mark in my darts, and then I cut it out. If you're having difficulties drawing a simple basic bodice, you can check at the comment section. I'm going to pin a video in this channel where you can watch how to cut a basic bodice. So I'm going to fold my fabric again into 2, and I'm going to place the front part so that I can go ahead and draw the back part. So I'm going to trace out the back part while doing some adjustments. So I'm going to input my across back measurement here, which is slightly bigger than the across front. I'm going to take my back neck, it's way deeper than the front neck, and it's a deep V neck for the back part. So I'm going to open up the front so that I can draw the V neck at the back. So I'm going to cut it out, but before cutting out, I'm going to contour the back zipper allowance so as to prevent bulging at the back part. Then from there, I'll trace out my zipper allowance of 1 inch. So I'm going to print out my darts on the back part as well. So we have our front and back. I'm going to use a small cup sleeve for this dress. And for the facing, I'm going to cut a full facing for the front and the back to give it more structure, because I realized my fabric was not that thick. So I'm doubling the front and the back. So I'm going to fold my fabric into 4 to cut my cap sleeve with some gathers at the shoulder area. So I'm using 4 for the across arm and 6 inches for the cap height, so as to give enough room for the gathers. So it comes out in the form of a semicircle. For the inner lining, I'm cutting a 720 degrees flare that I'm going to double the net on top. So I'm dividing the waist round by 2, and I'm going to use half of that measurement divided by 6.28 to get the radius of my flare. And my radius was 2.5, and from that 2.5 I'm going to measure the full length of the flare. That's from waist to knee. So 2 of these flares are going to give me 720 degrees. So this is a 360 degree flare using half of the waist measurement. So I'm going to cut 2 of these. And then for the inner lining as well, I'm going to cut 1 piece. So this is my tulle net. 6 yards. It comes by 60. I've divided it into 3 equal parts. That's 20 inches by 6 yards each. So I'm going to draw the gathers separately. So I'm doing 3 layers of tulle net. So I'm going to take it to the machine and do the gathers. And for this shiny face satin, I'm using it for the band and the bow behind the dress. So let's begin the sewing. I'll begin by turning my neckline with the lining. So I'm beginning with the front neck. After turning it, I'm going to notch it all around. I've notched it, and the next thing I'll do is to sew my darts. So I'll sew my front dart both on the fabric and on the lining before joining them both together. So I'm going to sew my darts on the lining as well. After that, I'm going to open up the neckline and top stitch on the side of the lining. This helps to make the neckline relax well and prevents it from popping out. So after that, I'm going to close all the sides, all the open areas. I'm going to close it up. So after closing up, I'm going to notch the armhole before turning it. I'll move to the next armhole and also turn it with the lining. And I'll do my notching. I'll notch, notch, notch to the end, and then I'll turn it. So this is how our front part looks like. And for the back part, I'll also turn the neckline and the armhole with the lining, same as the front part. Remember to always notch all curved areas very well to avoid twisting. So this is one part of the back. I'm going to do the same for the other part of the back. So this is the 2 bands I'm going to put both on the front and back waist. For the sleeves, I'm going to stitch a loose stitch so that I can draw some gathers at the center of the sleeve on the shoulder part. So I'm doing the same thing on both sleeves. So I'll keep it aside for now. Then I'll move ahead to attach the waistband. So I'm just placing the band on the front and back waist, and I'll stitch all through. So we have our front and back already joined at the shoulder. So I'm going to join it like this. I'll pin down the zipper allowance so that we can go ahead and join the sides. So I'm going to use her measurements to join the sides, both the bust and waist measurements. So I'm going to measure the waist, and any excess I'll share it equally on both sides. Same for the bust circumference. So the next thing to do is to stitch it down. Same for the other side. So we are almost done with the upper part. This is how it looks. So we are going to keep it aside and then move to the lower part. But again, before moving to the lower part, I would like to finish with the sleeves. So I'm drawing the gathers. You can see how the cup sleeve is already forming. So I'll pull the gathers together to form a cup sleeve. This is how the sleeve will look like. And for the lining of the tulle net, I'm going to cut open the 360-degree flares. That's 2 of them, and then I'll join them together to form a 720-degree flare. And the only opening I'm going to have is the opening at the zipper allowance. So after stitching it down, I'm going to take it to the zigzag machine so that I can seal the edges to prevent it from fraying. So now we are on the tulle net. As I said earlier, we are going to gather it in 3 separate parts. So I'm going to stitch a loose stitch so I can pull the gathers. So while stitching, I make sure that the thread does not cut so it doesn't disturb me when I'm dragging or when I'm pulling the gathers. So I'm going to do all these on all the 3 layers of net. So I'm going to pull 2 threads together, then I'll start dragging. So I'll pull and pull till I get the desired length, which is the round waist measurement plus zipper allowance. So after I'm done with the pulling, I'm going to join these 3 layers together. It makes it more puffier when you do the gathers separately rather than joining the 3 layers and pulling your gathers together. So I'm going to join the 3 parts now before attaching it to the inner layer, which is the taffeta material or taff material. So while joining them, I measure to make sure that it gives me the exact waist circumference plus zipper allowance. So this is the stage that needs a lot of care so that you don't stitch on places that you're not supposed to stitch on. So I take time to arrange the net well before stitching. So we have our 3 layers of net joined together. And for the layer directly under the net, which is the 720 degrees flare, I'm going to add a few pleats there to make it the exact waist measurement. I've measured and seen that there is a bit of excess, so I'm putting in a few pleats rather, and these pleats also help to make it really ballish, really puffy. So I've measured and the length is okay, so I'm going to attach the net on this fabric. So I'm placing the net on the fabric, and I'll take my time and arrange it well before sewing. Making sure it doesn't twist at any point in time. So I'm done attaching it. So what we are going to do next is to attach the upper part to the lower part. But before that, I'm going to mark my center point both on the upper part and on the lower part, so that these 2 points will match at the center to give the dress that balance. So I'm going to match the centers, pin it down, and then I'll make sure I arrange it well and pin it down all through before I begin sewing. So I'm going to go ahead and sew it all through to the other side. As you can see, I'm taking my time to arrange it very well. At this point, you don't need to be in a haste You just need to take your time and do it bit by bit, because this net is really delicate. So I'm done sewing it. So we have the up and the down already joined. You can see the seam at the waistline, but I'm going to add another lining to cover up the seam. So I'm going to put it facing up, and after sewing I'm going to flip it downward to cover up all the rough seams at the waistline. So you can see the inner part of the gown looking neat, looking very neat. So I'm going to go ahead and fix my zipper at the back. So I'm going to use this invisible zip. So I'm going to sew one side before moving to the other side of the zip. I also made a bow for the back part of this dress, but because I don't want this video to be too long, I did not include it here. But if you are really interested, I'm going to pin a video at the comment section where you can watch in detail how to make a bow. Please give this video a thumbs up, like this video, comment on the comment section, and tell me if you are going to try this style out. So this is our dress, it's almost complete. So I'm going to fix the sleeve. I also embellished it and added a bow at the back. You can see how beautiful it looks on her. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like this video. Bye bye.